You might think that this is from 1994 because it looks like the CG intro to a PS1 game, but you would be wrong. It is from 2003. What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA, and today we are going to talk about album art. Because, you know, there's some artists that just have kind of a knack for great visuals like Black Flag or Misfits, and then some other artists, well, not so much. Let's just say that visual art maybe is not their forte. And so in this video, let's take a look and see where your favorite artists and albums stack up in this album art tier list. If you haven't, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you get all my videos. But first, I want to thank Adam and Eve for sponsoring this video. As you may know, they are the nation's leading marketer of adult products, and they're offering a nice little discount just for viewers of my channel. Hit the link in the description and use coupon code PUNK50 to get 50% off one item and free shipping in the US or Canada, although please note some exclusions do apply. They've got 24/7 customer service, a no-hassle 90-day return policy, and discreet packaging if you'd rather that your neighbors or roommates don't know that you ordered a hoo-ha or ding dong or whatever. You don't have to worry about having one of those Austin Powers kind of moments. So if you want to check out Adam and Eve, just hit the link in the description of this video and use the coupon code PUNK50 to take advantage of that deal. So first of all, let's just talk about what makes good or bad album art. The way I see it, there are three criteria. First, does it make you want to listen to the music? Second, does it stand on its own as a piece of design? Like, would I want this hanging on my wall? And lastly, timelessness. Did it just look cool because it was super trendy at that point in time? Or is it something that really stands the test of time? But let's talk about a couple classics, starting with Limp Bizkit's Significant Other. I'm just gonna say it. This cover is nu metal, period. Like, nobody will ever create something more nu metal than this. It just makes you want to like bounce your hands and rap aggressively at the girl who broke your heart and tell her, "Joke's on you, I did it all for the nookie." Another album that I would put in this category is All Hallows by AFI. The design itself is okay, but not great, but it did the job of kind of telling everybody where they were headed, and it's definitely a classic. I mean, how many 30-something roller derby girls based their entire personality around this phase of AFI? I'll go with A tier on this. And speaking of which, we've got to talk about Jane Doe by Converge. A certified classic, right? The album that got so many people into metalcore, that kind of created the whole lane for like pitchfork metal or hipster hardcore. Because when you see this cover, you have to think of one and only one thing. Dudes with beards who drive a Subaru and almost definitely have this album cover tattooed somewhere on their body. But in all seriousness, this is an iconic image that I would say represents their era of hardcore more than probably anything else, so I would put this up there with Family Man. This is an S tier image. Now let's talk about bands that are sometimes on both sides of this coin. For example, Black Flag, who, like I said, have an amazing knack for creative direction and visuals. I mean, they made classics like Family Man, which to me is one of the best like punk album covers of all time. I would put this on the S tier. But then this is also the same band who released this album. Black Flag has always been one of those bands that kind of wants to antagonize and challenge their listener. You know, I mean, they went from playing like pretty straightforward hardcore punk to doing these like long, droning, 7-minute long kind of Sabbathy songs. And I'm gonna say this cover art is a big fuck you to all their fans who expected them to do another Raymond Pettibone drawing on the cover. And I can respect that, so I'm actually gonna put this on the S tier as well. Speaking of so bad it's good, let's talk about this Edema album, Topple the Giants. There is a lot going on here. But what really bothers me about this is the wardrobe choice on this giant. Like, I feel like this giant looks more like a genie than a giant. That is a genie vest, that's not a giant's vest. And so for that reason, I'm gonna give this D tier. You know what I'm kind of a fan of? Literalism. Why beat around the bush? Why does art have to be like profound and obscure? Why don't you just say what you wanna say? For example, Cannibal Corpse, Eaten Back to Life. I don't know, dude, why don't we just have like a zombie like eating himself? I also like how this looks to be watercolor. Watercolor is like the least death metal medium of all time to me. I'll go with C tier on this. And next up, Metal Up Your Ass by Metallica. For those who don't know, this was the original title for their first album, Kill 'Em All, and I guess like their label made them change it or whatever. And what a perfect cover. I mean, it's called Metal Up Your Ass, and it is a picture of somebody shoving metal up your ass. I'm gonna go with A tier on this one. This would definitely make me want to listen to this. Here's a band called Chopping Mall. The album is called Mauled by a Magical Bear with Scalding Hot Liquid Cheese spraying from its eye sockets, and the cover is exactly that. I mean, what is there to say but that? I'm gonna put this on the B tier because this does make me actually want to listen to this band. Born of Osiris, metal band. And this artwork does look pretty metal, but you know what it looks like more to me is an expansion set from like a big box PC game. Like I could imagine this being Baldur's Gate or Oblivion DLC. Does anyone have a crack for the Eternal Rain? I'm gonna go with C tier on this. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the artists who have made a whole career out of making amazing album covers. For example, Ed Repka. You may know him as the guy who kind of defined that style that you saw on so many thrash albums with like some corrupt businessman smoking a cigar and holding fistfuls of money as people starve in the background. For example, the Evil Dead album, which by the way, if you're into thrash metal, you need to check out Evil Dead. You're missing out if you don't. Another person who has to be mentioned here is Dan Seagrave. He did a ton of those classic like Roadrunner and Earache bands back in the 90s. Everything that Dan Seagrave has ever done, I'm gonna put on the S tier. With the exception of one album, Effigy the Forgotten by Suffocation. The cover might be a B or a C, but these are S tier press photos. Frank Mullen's like, "Don't worry, I got you," and puts on his Trump Plaza t-shirt that he probably got for free in Atlantic City and a pair of sweatpants. And then we've got Mike Smith over here wearing his atheist crop top like some death metal e-girl would wear in her thirst trap TikToks.
Please tell me why I'm going into Walmart in an oversized t-shirt and shorts and somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Oh my god, are you wearing shorts underneath that?" No, Karen. I thought today would be a good day to fucking walk around bare puss in fucking Walmart.
Pushead is another one of those artists where pretty much everything he's ever done is S tier. Or his own band, Septic Death. He also did a lot of stuff from Metallica. He did my favorite Misfits t-shirt. I'm just gonna say Pushead's overall body of work, everything he's ever done, is S+ tier. He's just that good. Another one of my favorite categories is covers that use technology a little bit before it was ready for prime time. Maybe the best example of this is Dance of Death by Iron Maiden. We've got this girl here with like a weirdly extruded neck, this like dancing baby, a bunch of like babes and G-strings that look like NPCs from a PS2 game. It's absolutely terrible in every way, and yet because of that, it is intriguing, it's memorable, it's a puzzle that we as a listener want to solve. And so for that reason, I'm gonna give it a B. It's bad, but it kind of works. Another example of this from the metal world is the album Millennium by Monstrosity. I remember pirating this program called Kai's Power Tools back in the 90s and making stuff like this. This is like 3 marble eggs, an Oblivion Gate in the distance or something. Again, it's so bad that it's almost good, but I'm gonna say it's really just so bad, it's bad, and this goes in the F tier. But what I'm not so sure of is whether it's worse than their other album, In Dark Purity, which like literally looks like a screenshot from Morrowind or something. I'm gonna go with F tier on this one as well. Another nu metal classic is the debut album from Korn. Is it timeless? I would say so, but it's really creepy. I don't know why they chose this. But then again, these were their meth days, you know, when you haven't slept for 4 days and you're tweaked out of your mind, you make interesting creative decisions. Another band who's like weirdly on both sides of this coin is Green Day. I would say Dookie and American Idiot are both S tier album covers, and yet somehow they also signed off on this. They probably thought that they were being like edgy and trolling their fans like Black Flag did. And I guess they kind of did, but this just feels more to me like boomer dads trying to use memes and kind of coming up short. I'll give it D tier. There's also the category of album covers that are kind of not great, but they're pretty good just because they're different and they stand out. And so for that reason, I think they succeed in terms of making you want to check the music out. For example, Gojira's album From Mars to Sirius. There's like a space whale or something. Kind of makes me think of Sin from Final Fantasy X. So I'm not really sure what the concept is here other than like, we're heavy, but we're also into like planets and whales and stuff. I don't know. But either way, I would say this is B tier. Good, but not great. But hey, at least it's not as bad as Where You Want to Be by Taking Back Sunday, which looks to me like an album by some random like British or Australian pub rock band from like 1972, whose claim to fame is that they like toured once with Molly Hatchet. This one's an F for me. But speaking of tattoos for bearded people in their 30s, we've got to talk about Descendents' Milo Goes to College. You look at this and you want to check it out because what other punk band in the early 80s was being like aggressively nerdy? So it's an A for me.
All? No, all!
Another A-tier album cover I would say is Black Sabbath's self-titled album. And looking at it even now, it feels like kind of dark and spooky and creepy and it makes me want to listen to the music. And you got to think if it has that kind of impact now, imagine how it looked back then. Like this must have been the most like dark, spooky, occult thing imaginable in 1971 or whenever this came out. I'm gonna give this an A, but only because I think the logo is a little bit weak. It could have been better integrated into the image, I think. But still, it's classic. Another classic album is Deftones' Around the Fur. And this is the album that I think really put them on the map. And you gotta give it to them for this album cover. I mean, it has boobies on it. What horny teenage guy doesn't want to look at boobies? This is an instant stopper when you're flipping through the CD bin, right? But the reason why I like this is because it reminds me so much of that feel like pure shit, just want her back. I'll give this one an A. Speaking of bands that are popular with stoners, let's talk about Electric Wizard and their album cover for Dope Throne. I think this is borderline terrible. I mean, I don't know why they chose this like really soft, airbrushy style here that makes it look like the album is low res or my eyes are out of focus or something. Maybe it's because they like wanted you to feel like they were high. So here's my proposal. Update this album art for 2021 and instead of having the guy smoking a bong, give him that zoomer haircut with a dangly earring and he's hitting a jewel. Make it relevant for the TikTok generation. I'll give this one a D.
Where's my jewel? Where's my jewel? So not cool.
And we've got the legendary album Punk's Not Dead by The Exploited. I'm gonna give this one an A because it is one of the most punk albums of all time. And you know what makes it so punk? They left out the apostrophe in punks. It's supposed to be punk is not dead, but this is more like a caveman. Punk's not dead, we not killed them. Let's talk about Morbid Angel for a minute because I've always really liked their artwork. I actually have a tattoo of the like Grim Reaper thing from the inside of this album, Altars of Madness. I got it from the guitarist of All Out War in somebody's kitchen in like 1998. Or my personal favorite, Domination. To me, this is like the perfect visual representation of some of the songs on the album, like Where the Slime Live. So I'm gonna give this one an A as well. There's also this whole category of album covers that are good but not great, but the album itself is great, and so I think we kind of give the artwork a higher ranking than it actually deserves. For example, Homesick by A Day to Remember. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's just absolutely in my top 10. But if we're being honest, the album art, it's only a B, I would say. It's well done, but the composition is kind of unfocused. It's hard to really make out what's going on. I think the palette is a little overall dark. It's not bad, but it's not great. I'll give it a B. And I would say the same thing about a lot of the Devil Wears Prada's artwork. For example, Plagues, which is by the same artist. And I understand this is his style and he's kind of going for this like super complex thing, but really, what does it say? And I don't really think it's timeless. It looks a little bit dated to me, so I'm gonna give this one a C. All right, how about the self-titled album by American Football? On the one hand, you could say that this is like super lazy because it's just like the name of the band typed out in some crappy font over some random photo. But to me, this is a great cover because when you listen to the band, you can just picture what is inside that room on the cover. Some guy laying on a mattress on the floor with no box spring, unframed posters on the wall, probably like a Pulp Fiction one, maybe a copy of Fight Club that he's never read, and the smell of clove cigarettes everywhere. And although it is kind of a basic design, it's become a little bit of a meme. People have made all kinds of parodies of it, so I'm gonna give this one an A. I think it's a good cover. But I'm not sure I can say the same thing about Creed's album, Weathered. This is what happens when someone gets their first copy of Photoshop and wants to do the album cover for their friend's band. I mean, doesn't this just look like some local bar band's CD that they would try to get you to buy when you're standing in line to see Shinedown or something? Only it's not a bar band, it's like a massively successful multi-platinum rock band. This is shit tier, we're gonna give it an F. But you know, sometimes shit tier artwork is actually great. For example, this Master P album, The Last Dawn. You might recognize this style because it was super popular with 90s rap, and you can laugh all you want, but everybody knows this look. It's been copied a million times. It's by a studio called Pen and Pixel who did all this stuff. So you can laugh all you want, but I would say this checks all 3 boxes. Makes me want to listen to the music, stands on its own. Like, would you want this on a t-shirt or a poster? I would. And is it timeless? Yes. Although some of their covers are a little bit weird. For example, this guy, Po' Boy, which, by the way, is a kind of sandwich, I think, isn't it? I'm very confused about what's going on here. I mean, obviously, this is like a bling kind of image where he's like trying to make himself look like a baller. I mean, it says baller on the name of this front loader here, but I'm confused at some of the other stuff. Like, why are there pineapples in here? Are pineapples a status symbol? No matter what you think, you gotta respect Pen and Pixel for creating one of the most iconic album art styles of all time. And Sunbather by Deafheaven. They're the inventors of hipster black metal, and I would say that this album cover is like the Black Flag logo of that genre. It is like the exact opposite of everything you would expect from a black metal band, and so you want to check it out. It's like they're a black metal band that has an album called Sunbather that's pink. That's gay. Super simple but very effective typography. Whoever designed this, chef's kiss. I'm gonna give that one an S as well. All right, my friends, that's it for now. Let me know what you thought about this one. I would love to do a second installment of this if you're interested. I can do this all day long. I love talking about art. So if you want to see another episode, let me know in the comments and what albums I should include in that one. But before I let you go, I wanted to quickly plug my merch. For example, this Pop Punk with Breakdowns shirt, this Neon Cartoon Monster shirt by Michael Shantz, who you may know for doing a lot of the early artwork for Drop Dead, and my 2008 MySpace Deathcore shirt, which of course includes an edgy slogan and impact font on the back. If you want any of those, you can get them at the link in the description. And as always, I want to thank everybody who supports us on Patreon, especially those of you who support at the True Cult level or above. Patrons get every podcast a week early. There's a members-only private Discord server that I'm in all the time. I do Q&As, I do giveaways. There's a way to have me review your music or artwork or podcast or anything else you want to get my eyes or ears on. So if that sounds cool to you, you can support us on Patreon at the link in the description as well. And with that, I'm going to sign off for now, but I will see you next time.